I'm Dr. Sandra Rasberry, and I serve as Dean of the School of Education. I have been a faculty member here at Belle Haven for 26 years. I came in 1988. My decision to come to Belle Haven was really because a friend of mine, Dr. Kenneth Slaughter and Miss Betty Quinn, invited me in for an interview. I was fresh out of my doctoral program at Mississippi State, and it was just a golden opportunity for me to enter the collegiate area and to begin teaching again and to work with preparing teachers to teach, which I felt was my call to ministry. I think the opportunity to be able to influence lives in the schools across our area was the greatest joy that I had, was to be able to share with those who were entering the teaching profession all the experiences that I had had in the public schools, and to be able to, in some way, instill in them a love of teaching, not just the art of teaching or the skill of teaching, but to help them to recognize within themselves the gifts that they had that they could give back through being in the field of education. Well, I think the feel of the campus was one that I've continued to feel throughout my time here, and that was a sense of family. We were all very close. I lived on Preston 3rd floor, which we call the penthouse. The only person left on that floor that was there when I was there is Dr. Williford. We came together the same year. But it was a sense of support, a sense of someone being there for you when you had a question that you didn't know. I never felt like the administration was not approachable if I had a question or if I had a concern. And it just seemed to me like we were one big family working toward the same goal, even though we were each in our own disciplines. We each listened to each other, offered advice, and I needed a lot of advice when I first came. The students have changed over the years. When I first came, we were not as much a traditional fresh out of high school student in our program. Most of our students were married, were living in the area, and had decided to come back to school to continue their college career and become a teacher. So I would say 3/4 of our students were older students, which I could relate to because I went back to school as a married mother, and I knew the kind of issues that they were facing in trying to come back and get into learning how to study again and how to be in the classroom again and to juggle family and schoolwork and still do their very best. So it worked well for me because I related to those students. And over time we've changed. We have now probably over half of our students are traditional age. But they're also a joy to teach because they're so full of life and energy and looking toward the future and what they can add to the profession. And that just kind of rejuvenates you as a teacher to see those young educators coming along. So that was a joy as well. I think perhaps the greatest life lesson that I have been able to offer to my students is that you don't succeed with every child, and you don't succeed in every opportunity you have to teach. That you have to cherish those moments, maybe they're just very brief, of success, but always remembering that it's not you that is the one you're looking to be successful. But it is that the child is successful in what they are learning in the school or in the classroom or in life itself. And that there will be times when you feel very frustrated that you can't teach and no one is learning anything, but then the very next minute you see a smile on a child's face, or you see that, oh, I got it, I can now read, or I can now do this math problem, or I understand what you're teaching. that brings it all together and makes it very real. And as I said, I think the life lesson is this what God's calling you to do? And if it is, if teaching is where your heart is, then you will be successful, even though sometimes there may be many trials along the way that make you want to sometimes give up and say, am I sure I want to be a teacher? But yes, if that's where you're meant to be, there will be times in life when you will again be richly rewarded for what you do. Well, and when I came to Belle Haven, we didn't even have computers. The first computer was standalone in Dr. Slaughter's office, which he later very gladly let me take back to my office to work on. So to come from not even having any computers up to today where we're using smart boards and PowerPoints, big change in technology I think has drastically improved and changed the way in which we teach and the way in which children learn. Of course, the changes that have been made in just the requirements for students to finish our program have changed so drastically over the years, with more and more emphasis on reading and more emphasis on field experiences. I started one of the very first field experience prior to student teaching when I came, because I did it when I went through and it was so helpful to me, and that was called the Start of School Experience, and we called it SOS for short. And I think now almost every School of Ed in our state has this experience in their program, because we shared it with others and they found that, like we did, it was very helpful to students to begin to get those early clinical experiences. And now it is very much a have to. You have to have that in your program now. Well, I think we've been very successful with our graduates going out into the classrooms. You always love to hear, I've got my first job. That's always exciting. Many of them will email you or will write you or see you on the street and tell you how well they are prepared to teach and how their jobs are going. I think the successes of some of our graduates who have gone on to become administrators and principals is very rewarding for us as a School of Ed to see our students move up, not only from classroom teacher to a leader in the school, but also in the district and at the state level as well. Since we've begun our master's program, of course, we have a good many of those students who've gone on to get national board training. We've had people come into our alternate route program, which is probably our largest program right now, and maybe they had been working in industry or in business or not really sure what they wanted to do with their life, but felt a call to teach. And to see them go out and become successful and fill those spots in the classroom that we need is very rewarding to hear from them and to know that they did make the right choice to enter the teaching field. I think the biggest legacy that Belle Haven gives its students is that for many of them, they found themselves here at Belle Haven. They found out who they were as a person. They found that connection that they needed with who they were, and then what their faith had to do with what they wanted to be. So Belle Haven was not just, I got a college degree and now I've got to go find a job. But I think Belle Haven's legacy is that they grew in not only their knowledge and skills and their ability to go out into the workforce, but they grew in their friendships and their relationships, and especially finding that God is in everything they do, and what they believe and how they conduct themselves in the world is based on that strong foundation that they have. And so many of our students tell us, you know, that I have grown as a Christian while I was at Belle Haven, not just grown as a person in my knowledge and skills of the world and what I'm to do. So I think to me, Belle Haven's legacy is that we do create a whole person. and that we look at each individual and their gifts and their talents and what they can do to develop those and use them for good.